What's up, everyone? NCAA football is upon us, and with that, there's a lot of player props that maybe you guys haven't seen yet. So, I'm going to be doing a bunch of videos on all the different NCAA props that you guys could bet on, and some of the key ones we're going to start off with. So, for today's video, we're going to be looking at receiving yards. So, no games have been played yet, but we could look at 2022 stats, and I will warn you guys, it is better to wait a few games before you place some bets with the data because a lot of these players have improved or have declined in the offseason. They might get more playing time, less playing time. So make sure you take that into consideration before going crazy. But this is how I will do my research on all NCAA props, specifically for receiving yards. So when we go over here, this is all 2022 stats. So we could look at the bottom. We could look at opponent rank, which is really cool because this will show us who has the highest opponent ranking for this prop. So, for example, Malik Nabers, if you see, FSU is fourth in receiving yards allowed, which means they allow the fourth highest receiving yards. And in these slate of games, they are the best team to choose if you want to take a receiving yards prop. And if we go lower and lower, we'll see more and more opponent ranks. So we could look at last 5, last 10, and 2022 because there's nothing for 2023 yet. But if we take a look over here at 2022, we could see who has been performing very well with their receiving yards props. We take a look, Chris Autumn Bell, over 23.5. He's covered this line in every game of 2022. So only 3 games. I'm going to be looking at a few other players just to see. Cameron Ross, for example, 2022. He has gone under in all 3 games, but still pretty small data. We could take a look at some other guys. We could look at the last 10s. We'll see this. Xavier Townsend, under 33.5 receiving yards. In 2022, he covered this line in every single game except one. Now, it's a little sketchy that this line is set at 33.5. Definitely some change-ups in the game plan or playing time and whatnot, but we could look at this further, look at passing plays. He's averaging 33.2 passing plays. Receptions, he's averaging 1.4 receptions last season. You can look at target share, yards per reception, averaging 3.7 yards per reception, and longest reception, which is average of 8.4 yards. And if we go lower, we will see the opponent rank. So KNT receiving yards defense, they rank very high or very good in that fact. 120. If it's red, that means that they don't allow many receiving yards, which is good to know for the under because we're hoping that he doesn't get over 33.5 receiving yards. And if we take a look over here and scroll further down, we will see the line movement for this line as well. And we could also take a look at the matchup on the top right. And this matchup will just show us offensive/defensive stats. So if you take a look, Townsend plays for UCF, and you can take a look at their defensive rankings and then Kent State's offensive, or switch it around, and then you could look at all the key stats for your specific prop. So for receiving yards, you could take a look at UCF's offensive ranking to see how many receiving yards they average as a team, and yards per play, they're 28th. Rushing yards, passing yards are 42nd. They average 256 passing yards per game last season. So middle of the pack, a little bit better than middle of the pack. And you can look at all the other stats here as well. So that's just one player. But once again, no games have started yet. So once some games have gone underway, I will be making more videos so we could look at this current season stats and choose our picks based off of that. But as of now, we only have 2022 stats to look at. And you can look at all these other players. Take a look at their 2022, their last 10. For example, Billy Kemp. Take a look, 37.5. This is a little sharper. He got 38 in his very last game. Take a look at everything else I told you guys. So you see Minnesota, they're 15th. So that actually shows that they're not allowing many passing yards. I think I made a mistake on the previous one. So this green, since we're looking at the under, green is a good sign, meaning that they are a very good defense. But when I showed you guys Xavier Townsend, when it was red, I made a mistake, but it actually means that they don't have that great of a defense at all. 273.1 receiving yards per game they average, which is really high. That means their defense is really bad. And yeah, that's about it. So Chris Bell, I just showed you guys. I didn't show you guys. I showed this earlier, but his 23.5 is a little sketchy because that is a very low line for what he averaged in 2022. So if you guys are more into NCAA and know the reason for that, you could stay away. Other than that, it does look good because he's been hitting it very consistently. If we want to do exactly what I showed you guys, the defense is showing a bit of a slight green, which means that they do allow a good amount of passing or receiving yards, and then the matchup as well. And once again, you guys can look at other advanced stats such as home and away, games without certain players. Home games, for example, he covered in 7 of his last 8. So all that stuff, I will be going more in depth once we have more data for this season. So make sure you guys like, follow, subscribe, and make sure you download Outlier. Get your 7-day free trial on the iOS App Store. I will see you guys for the future videos.